Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Higher Education Tableau User Group meeting for October 2023. It's my favorite month of the year, so I'm pretty excited today. We've got a packed agenda, so I'm not going to waste any time getting in. First, we'll open the floor for announcements, followed by our Meet a Community member with Preethi Lodha from the University of Massachusetts, tips and tricks with Brian Vancil from the University of Kansas, and then isochrone maps with Nathan Hodges from Western Carolina, followed up by our typical wrap-up and chat and breakout rooms. Now, I'm going to start with one announcement before I open the floor, and this comes from James Emery at Georgia Tech. They are hosting a hybrid 3-day symposium on data next week. The keynote is Dr. Amelia Parnell, who is the VP for Research and Policy at NASPA, and Student Affairs Administrators in Higher Education. So I do believe, Roshni put the link in the chat. So if you want to register for that, I believe James said that they would be recording the sessions when they're able to. And like, if you're me, I'm going to be on vacation that day. So, or 2 of those days. So if you register, hopefully you'll be able to watch them later on. James couldn't be here for the beginning of our TUG meeting, so he can't answer that question, but you can reach him on our Slack group if you do have questions about that event. All right, so with that being said, I'll open the floor. If anyone has announcements they'd like to make, job postings of their institution that they'd like to share, feel free to come off mute, share that, put it in the chat, whatever works for you. Claire said that Dr. Amelia Parnell is also the author of You Are a Data Person, which is awesome. I haven't read that yet, but sounds interesting. All right, so if there are no announcements from the group, we'll move on to our next announcement, which is Iron Viz. So Iron Viz, if you're not familiar, is a competition that Tableau runs at their conference every year. The feeder is what is open currently. So you have the month of October to submit a dashboard that fits into their theme. The theme this year is love. Viz what you love. It can be anything. They're going to be judging these on your design, your analysis, and your storytelling. There is some more information on the website that Roshni put in the chat. So if you are interested in participating in the Iron Viz feeder and maybe being selected as one of the 3 competitors to go on to compete for the Iron Viz title at the conference in 2024, please do that, because win or learn, you can't lose.
And also the conference is in San Diego. So if you make it there, I mean, free ticket to San Diego, just saying.
You really
or at least
can't do that. We are also going to spotlight 2 new TUGs, the Tableau Public TUG, which you will learn from Tableau Public authors who also happen to be This is the Day winners. The next meeting is Thursday, which is in just a couple of days, so you can still sign up for that. Also, the University Teaching and Learning TUG. So if you teach Tableau in a university environment, this TUG is for you. Their very first meeting is going to be October 20th, this Friday, so you also have time to sign up for that. All right, so now we are going to introduce our Meet a Community member of the month of October. Preethi Lodha is from the University of Massachusetts, where she works in the president's office. She's a data analytics and insights manager. Beyond that, she is a Tableau Public ambassador and a featured author with over 1 million, and yes, I said that right, over 1 million Tableau Public views. She is also an active contributor to the Tableau community, co-leads the Tableau community project known as #DataFamCon, and the new Tableau Public user group. So she also serves on the Instructor Advisory Council for Tableau for Teaching, bringing her data viz advocacy back to higher ed. A couple of weeks ago, she was also named crowned the Chart Champ of 2023. I mean, with a resume like that, we are so excited to have you as our community member for this month. So welcome, Preethi.
Thank you, Virginia.
All right, so if you're familiar, we're going to ask you a few questions about yourself in Tableau, and then we're going to have our lightning round where we're going to ask you to pick or to share little tidbits about yourself. So first, we'll let you tell us a little about yourself and your role and your team.
Sure. Let me start by saying thank you for this opportunity. And I have not heard such a great intro to myself, so I'm gonna totally steal it from you. I'm like that will become my bio going forward. But yeah, hello everyone. I'm Preethi Lodha. As Ginny said, I am a data analytics and insights manager. I work at University of Massachusetts President's Office. I work in a unique role where I'm not at campus, I'm not interacting with students, I'm not doing the day-to-day stuff, but I'm at the president's office. As you might know, that University of Massachusetts has 5 campuses. We are in Amherst, Boston, Dartmouth, Lowell, and Chan Medical School. So very unique 4 undergrad campuses and then a graduate medical school campus. So our role in engaging with data and working with the data sets and our audiences are a bit different from what higher education generally works in. My audiences are mostly board of trustees, senior management, and the leadership of sorts. Currently in my role, I do not only the institutional research side of the house, but also because I'm housed in academic affairs, student affairs, and equity, we tend to look at a lot of analysis and analytics to better the student experience at our university. Talking about my team, it is a very small team of 6 people. With only 2, there are only 2 of us doing the data analytics for the president's office for this group. But we do have a lot of support. We have factors in ANF and the other departments. So combinedly, we make up a bigger group, but with each department, we are smaller in the sense.
I had no idea that there were 5 campuses, so I learned something new today. All right, so what type of data do you work with? You already kind of hinted at this, but.
Yeah, no, certainly. So it's mostly the student data, but one of the things that I've also seen is we also rely a lot on external data sets. We combine, we work with a lot of census data. We work with a lot of, probably a few of us have worked with the clearinghouse data set, where we send out our data, get the matching records and stuff. So a lot of those sort of external data sets, but the typical ones where you have to do the federal submissions, the Department of Higher Education submissions, then you have the internal reporting for the students and their success. And going to the wide gambit, we also work on the research and development data sets because we do provide that. Keeping that in mind, we had recently expanded our office portfolio to do more for the campuses. So we do offer services where we are able to do program analysis. So we do program market analysis and stuff. So the data sets for that are very varied. So yeah, it is just give us a data set and we'll figure something out for you. That is all I say to the group.
It sounds like you get to work with a lot of different data, which is always fun.
Certainly.
So how do you use Tableau at work?
So currently we use Tableau to do a lot of descriptive analytics. So it involves collecting and analyzing data just to provide the insights into various aspects of the institution per se. So for enrollment analysis, for retention and graduation analysis, for understanding what the student demographics and diversity look like, and for doing comparative institutional performance and characteristics. So the Tableau part of the housing that we are trying to do is trying to move away from our statistical reporting to something that is accessible and dynamic to the user group. We are building our user base to be more interactive. So self-service analytics is also one of the things that we are trying to get our users to participate more into. One of the things that we have learned over the years is that it is a learning curve for everybody to move on to from the previous technology and the users to the new ones. So currently we are in that process of using Tableau at work. We are really excited. previously we were OBI EE house, so we had all our functionalities up there. We still do have that, so we are between two phases. It just depends upon who your user and audience is. We tend to choose the corresponding tool.
Do you have a favorite Tableau project that you've worked on?
That is such a great question, Ginny. I've recently been working on this clearinghouse analysis where I get to combine the external data and the internal data. And I am so happy with the questions my leadership is asking. They want to know the niche things about, like, what is the catchment area of a student who got admitted but did not enroll at the university? Can we get an understanding of what the student population is like? And I think anybody who has done the clearinghouse analysis knows that we try and look at where do our students go or where do they end up at. So that analysis has been so interesting, and it has given me so much insight into it. Why it has become my favorite Tableau project is not only the analysis part of it, but also how to present the data, because it is such a data dense project. And my audience is my senior management and my trustees and working group officials and stuff. So I'm trying to not make the data dense, trying to convert that data into something that is more of a storytelling of sorts. So this analysis cannot be one of your typical dashboards, right? Where I cannot just have KPIs and numbers. This has to be a story that progresses with each click and showcases you the answer that needs to be done.
Absolutely. You'll notice in the chat, you're not the only one to work on a project like this. And it's something that I've worked on at my institution as well. We could probably get a big group together and compare notes.
We totally should. I am more than happy to have conversations if you have any great ideas, because there are certain places where it has been so data dense. I am struggling with what would be the best way to visualize something. I have the numbers. I just need help with some visualizing it now.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to insert real quick. We do have some breakout rooms at the end of our meeting, so that could be the starting point for some of these conversations.
I think that's a great one to add.
Great, Roshni. Thank you.
All right. So next question. How long have you been using Tableau and how did you learn to use it?
I've been using Tableau for 5 years or so, but it was also for the work. In my previous life, I was a data warehouse specialist, so we had this beautiful warehouse built up and stuff. But then there came an opportunity where you now need to visualize this data, create those reports and dashboards, right? So I got the opportunity to learn Tableau from the work environment, where we had training sessions brought in. So we did the 3-day coursework of the training, where we got the introduction to Tableau and stuff. And I just was so quickly attracted to Tableau with its simple drag and drop features, and it didn't feel like I was doing so much or it was such a huge learning curve. But the thing that I have seen is, because Tableau is such a powerful tool, and then when you go out in the world and you look at all these beautiful dashboards, you certainly tend to get overwhelmed. But over the years, I have learned it's just the learning process of it. You learn things, you understand the best practices, you implement what works for your university or organization, what works for your audiences, and it just makes it easier. So it's still learning in progress. LODs is something that I still struggle with, but I'll conquer it one day.
Do you have a favorite Tableau feature?
I'm going to take this question a little bit differently. I'm going to say Tableau Public. Again, it's not per se a Tableau feature, but it is one of the entities of the Tableau or the services. Why? Because Tableau has been the teaching tool for me, where I got a lot of my inspiration from, and I've learned a lot, and I get to see all these beautiful higher education dashboards, which I might not have because a simple Tableau public search just gives me access to so many well thought, well made enrollment dashboards and other dashboards out there. So it is one of the most powerful features that I have used. Apart from that, I would say map layers. I've just not figured out how to use map layers effectively. And I'm really excited because, as you said, the Tableau public tug, which is happening on Thursday, we have Jessica Moon, who is the foremost authority on using map layers for non-map vizzes. So I'm looking forward to getting that experience out of it.
Definitely. I think those are both excellent features to highlight. So I know you already mentioned LODs. What would you like to learn more about in Tableau?
Good question. I think I'm trying to get that balance between because the creative person in me wants to use not those niche vizzes like the stream graph and stuff. It looks beautiful, but it is of no use to my audience in higher ed.
True.
So I just coming up with that balance. But you know what? I use it in my Tableau public environment. Anything that I cannot use in my professional setting, I bring it to my Tableau public. So I'm not only learning that skill, but I'm also trying to use it to effectively dissipate the information out there.
Is there something you wish you could go back in time and tell yourself when you were a Tableau newbie?
As I previously touched on this, I would like to tell the newbie oneself is that Tableau is a powerful tool. It just takes practice and curiosity to learn this tool. One of the important things that I've learned is exploring different data sets, experimenting with these techniques, and seeking feedback to improve your skills is so much beneficial. I kick myself under the table. I kick myself sometimes because I'm like, I didn't know about DataFam and the community as a whole when I initially started with the Tableau. So I was just wrestling with myself, trying to find a training program where I could find the answer or go on the community forums just to get an answer. Once I got introduced to the broader world of DataFam, I saw there were so many resources out there that were readily available. There were solutions that were being offered. There were these Tableau public dashboards which you could download and reverse engineer and learn from it and solve so many problems. So I think for the newbie self, I would just say, just be curious, keep at it, and you will learn eventually.
Such good advice. I have to agree that before I discovered the DataFam, like I was always kind of lost, especially in higher ed data, because none of the dashboards that were built from Superstore really applied, right?
No, yeah, and we are a unique vertical, right? Because we have these a set of rules that we have to visit and build in. The Superstore dashboard gives me year-over-year trend. Probably that is all I have learned from it. But yeah, the definition, the placement of the data and the visualizing of higher ed data is different from what you would a Superstore data set might give you out. So, agreed.
So you've already kind of touched on the next question, but you can elaborate and tell us more about how you use Tableau outside of work.
Certainly. So Ginny, in the initial bio that you gave me, I tend to use Tableau as a learning opportunity. I create these vizzes to learn the tools and techniques, but B is to answer the questions that I might have. So the viz that went with the million views is how Americans spend their money. Being up here in Boston, I was looking at my expenses and I was like, I feel like I'm overspending or it is just way too expensive. And the bright idea I had was like, let me look at how the rest of the population is spending their money. And there you go. I built a viz, put it out there, and it apparently clicked with the rest of the audiences, and it went well. The other thing that I tend to do is participate in data visualization contests a lot. So I do have women in analytics data visualization for my Sherlock Holmes under my belt. I was chart champ runner-up last year. That's why I went back this year, and I was like, I need to be chart champ. I need to be able to wear this gorgeous shirt and be like, I am the chart champ. So I went back this year with our analysis about America's international students, a topic close to my heart because I came to this country as an international student. So I saw that entire journey. So it is very personal, and it is something that I like to do. The other thing that I try to use a Tableau outside my work is as I try to donate my skills and my abilities to communities such as Viz for Social Good. So I participated in their competition for an organization called Build Up Nepal. And how gorgeous it is that they came back this year and they asked me if I could create the dashboard for them with the updated numbers. So it is very fulfilling that way too.
Definitely. And I have to admit, I am not familiar with this chart champ. So for those of us who don't know what that's about, could you just tell us a little bit?
No, certainly. So ChartChamp is more of a regional data analytics data viz competition of sorts, but it is also a data event per se that Clear Intelligence hosts every year in Boston. This is their 8th year of hosting it. The previous year winners have been Brian Moore, Jackie Moore, myself. So yeah, like amazing people have participated in this data viz competitions and won this data viz competition. They almost give you the feel of Iron Viz because they are also judging you based upon design and usability and the understanding and the other features per se. So it is a full day of excitement. You have to submit your dashboard good 3 weeks before. They tend to set a topic, and this year's topic was higher education. So I would very strongly suggest to the folks up here, go Google the higher education chart champ. There were such amazing visits that came out, especially with the SCOTUS ruling and identifying what, if we are not using race, ethnicity, what could be the other factors. One of the visits analyzed about how Pell Grant could be used as one of the factors in the decision making. So there were such bright visualizations which will help you with the broader conversations at your offices. So do check out.
Definitely will. And I believe Roshni put that link in the others for the community the community initiatives that you mentioned in the chat. All right, so is there anything else you'd like to share before we start our lightning round?
As previously you did share, the Tableau Public Tug is this Thursday. Do come join us. We have Jessica Moon and Dennis Cow who are showcasing their DataFam version 2 project. They've visited 100 of the DataFam members. It is one of the most amazing projects to see the behind the scenes. Sometimes I look at these gorgeous dashboards and gorgeous visualizations and I'm like, I would like to have a conversation. So this is that conversation up there. And then we have Emily de Padua, and she is doing her color studies analysis visualization. That was one of the finalists last year for the Iron Viz competition. So a little break between your Iron Viz if you're participating in it. I promise it would be good time. But I also quickly want to talk about, you might have seen that on my bio, I do say I play a role in the Tableau for Teaching program, Instructor Advisory Council. I'm one of the members. So Tableau for Teaching is more of, is sort of it is sort of a community that Tableau has put together where we support the instructors with educational resources and bringing them all these data enthusiasts so that they can teach the students better across all disciplines. The role that we play is we help understanding what the students might want for the future, especially because we work in higher ed. We are on there with the student and the instructors. So it was a group of people that we worked together. It has gone metamorphosized over the years. This was back in 2002, but in 2003, as Ginny, you had up on your screen, right? The next tug that they're having on Friday. That is one of the events that they're doing.
Wonderful. All right, well, we will start with our lightning round questions for you next. So it is Family History Month, and our question for you is, how far back can you trace your ancestry?
You literally made me go back home and ask this question to my grandfather, because I was like, how far can we go? So apparently we can figure it out all the way back to my great grandfather from my father's side. So
awesome. My grandpa is also big into tracing our family history, so he's the one I would ask as well.
Yep, certainly.
Next up, now that we've talked about the past, let's talk about pasta or pasta. It's National Pasta Day. What is your favorite pasta shape?
Again, a good question. I literally had to go back and look at the packaging because all I knew was the spiral pasta. And I was like, but it must have a name. In my head, it's spiral pasta. And then I went into this rabbit hole of whether it was fusilli or rotini.
Mhm.
I think it's the fusilli one that I like. It's the one that it's not cut that way. I'm offending so many people, but yeah, I learned it. I learned because of this question. I like the spiral kind.
I like it all. I love pasta. All right, so you might recognize this viz. It's October and Halloween is just around the corner. So what is your favorite horror movie?
I was new to this country, so Alfred Hitchcock movies were such a comfort for me because I enjoy the gory of it all and the suspense of it all. I will go with The Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock.
I'll admit I've never seen it, although it's a classic.
You totally need to. It's like it's the correct season. It's like the weather is perfect for this.
That's true. All right, so speaking of horrific things, it's also National Spreadsheet Day. What is your favorite Excel function?
I try to stay away from Excel as much as I can, but I think lookup function, it's just connecting. No, you caught me. It's like I stay away from Excel as much as I can. I apologize.
All right.
You know what? That is actually the correct answer. So
It was a trick question.
Thank you, Roshni.
All right, so it's National Wear Something Gaudy Day, but we're going to turn this one inside out a bit. It got us thinking about art museums like the Gaudi Museum in Barcelona, and you happen to have made a viz about art museums. So what is your favorite art museum?
I have always enjoyed the serenity of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. If you are in Boston, ever visiting Boston, you have to visit that museum. The art up there is amazing, but B, the location itself, the serenity of the place, it's just gorgeous. And C, I learned this, that if you are a Boston Public Library member, you get a couple of days in a month a free entry, so you wouldn't even have to pay for it.
Very cool. I've never been to Boston, so I guess I need to make that happen.
Certainly.
Right, so it's National Mulligan Day, and for those of you like me who had to look that up, a mulligan is a golf term for do-over. So if you had to pick one of your own dashboards to do over, which would you choose?
I am an avid fan of Formula One. So I, back in the day, did the Formula One World Championship 2021 season review. Oh, that's a long title. It was just so much information that I had put together in one screen. I think I was trying to break the barrier of 10,000 pixels, like the maximum length you could go down. No, I did not, but I was trying to, if given an opportunity, I would make that was more interactive per se, like make it compact, not so long.
My boss is a big Formula One fan too.
As a Mark fan, I'm having a tough season this year. It's like, yeah, Red Bull is dominating, but they have a good car. They should.
I don't know anything about it.
I'm sure somebody up here in the group is a Formula One fan. Give me a shout out if you are.
Mm-hmm. All right, so speaking of doing over dashboards, you made this one for Makeover Monday, a community project where participants redo a visualization. So for Family History Month, who's your favorite family member to call?
I'm gonna plead the fifth on this question because my family members like to support me in everything, and I'm sure they're gonna watch this. So no, actually, because I am an immigrant to this country and I have a lot of my family back home in India, it's like I enjoy talking to them all. It's just more of the distance and the longing that makes their conversations really enjoyable.
That's excellent. So all of them. That's a good answer.
Yes.
Right. That is also the right answer,
Yeah.
right? Like,
right, Roshni?
We threw a couple of these trick questions in, but I think you hold on, you crossed the finish line correctly. I'm trying to use this Formula One language, and I know none of it.
Yeah, same.
You didn't get a checkered flag, is that correct? Is that an appropriate?
Yes.
All right. Excellent.
Well, that wraps up our Meet a Community member for this month. Thank you so much for being our featured guest.
Bye, Jenny. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And with
All
that,
right.
I'll turn it over to Roshni.
So we are going to meet Brian Vancil. So Brian works at the University of Kansas. He originally trained as a physicist. You can tell by the bow tie, that's like an official sign of being a physicist. Then he taught high school science and burned out. Shocker. I hear that teaching leads to burnout a whole lot. But serendipitously, he ended up in a job that used Tableau for social good. And they pivoted to a data science career and now, again, works for the University of Kansas. If you heard the songs at the beginning, we did have a screaming Jayhawkins song because the Kansas, Jayhawks, go Jayhawks. And they work in the analytics, institutional research, and effectiveness group as a data scientist. So Brian is here to talk about URL actions. And if you haven't used URL actions, they can do so many things. You can send data back to other systems. You can pre-fill forms. Like there's just so much you can do with URL actions. And Brian is going to give us a little bit of an intro to all of that. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you for the introduction. Let's see, I'm going to share, get things set up. Right, if I'm not mistaken, you should be able to see things now.
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, great. And all right, I'm going to, actually, while I'm at it, I'm going to put this link in the chat. So, oh, it hides my chat while I'm presenting. Maybe someone else can pop that in there. All right, so you can look at this presentation later at your leisure, and go ahead and press S for speaker notes. I'm going to move pretty quickly through things, so we'll get started. I want to thank my organization, Analytics Institutional Research and Effectiveness at the University of Kansas, for the resources to explore these ideas. Anything I say or do poorly is entirely my fault. Assuming you already know the basics of Tableau, you will learn the difference between automating and informating, how to create a URL action in Tableau, when to create a URL action in Tableau by looking at 3 case studies. And it was the Slate one that first got me interested in trying to present this. Since URL actions are one of the oldest 2 types of actions from a Tableau perspective, this is a beginner level skill. I think you will get the most out of this time if you treat it as practice thinking about how you want to create dashboards. Not everything will be pertinent to everybody, but I will move quickly through the details, leave you enough information to reconstruct them on your own, and focus on creating a discussion of ways to improve the user experience. So our users aren't lazy, they simply deserve the best user experience. We are productivity multipliers for our organizations. If 10 users use your visualization per day and you can save them 1 minute each, and it only takes you a few minutes to do so, why wouldn't you do it? Users of our data products deserve to be able to do the most with the fewest resources. So let's do a little audience participation. We'll see if this works. If you're on camera, you can stretch to answer the question or react using Zoom reactions. If you can answer yes to the following questions. So have you created a URL action before? Let's see a show of reactions there. Yay, we've got some people who've done that before. All right, second question. Do your users describe a problem with a dashboard without telling you which dashboard? Anyone this happens for us all the time? All right, third question. Do you sometimes allow users to drill down into less aggregated data in your dashboards? Got some of that, yeah. Tableau is great for that. Now, if a user wants to find out more information about the records they find, do they have to open the source system and type in some arcane code to find the detailed records? For some of us, that's the case. And so the question I want to ask you is, why would you do that to people? Last question, do you know what kinds of URL schemes your source systems like student information systems or customer relations managers support? Anyone? Is that a yes for anyone? No? Yeah, if you're like most of us working in analytics or institutional research, the answer is probably no. You might be lucky if you even have access to the source systems. Let's see, yeah. Informating is a term that you can think of as turning something into usable information. In your own job, when something is taking too long, you can often automate that process. When you can automate the access to information for others, then you are informating. Information has a meaning, and by creating links, you are endowing that information with a context that others can use to find out more. So instead of displaying an employee ID, try linking to a detail page in your HR system where someone can do more. Instead of displaying weird records on a data quality dashboard, try linking to where users can fix them. Or instead of just displaying a course that a student has taken, why not link to a course catalog or a dashboard where you can see how others have fared in that course? So the possibilities for creating connections between our dashboards and our systems are only as limited as your imagination. Actions permit information to flow between UI elements. The go-to URL actions are a little different in that they allow interaction with a website outside of Tableau. Think of them as primitive precursors to extensions. The rest of the presentation will be about what you can do with the URL. And I'm going to skip through this rather quickly. You can go back and see a little bit more later. For our first case study, we'll look at how to speed up the feedback loop for getting comments on a dashboard. Users may be daunted by having to fully review a dashboard before responding. What if they can shoot off a quick comment every time they think of something to improve? And even better, if we don't have to find out every time they have a comment until we're ready. So let's make it as easy for them as possible. So here is there's a link here that hopefully Jenny or Roshni can copy and paste in the chat so that you can try this out and see what it looks like when you use a dashboard action. We've created a very simple dashboard based on the World Indicators sample workbook. It's not fancy, but please give it a try. You can click on the Give Feedback link there to open a Google form to write your own feedback. Almost everything is pre-filled so that I know with whom to follow up. If we were running this on Tableau Server instead of Tableau Public, we could actually pre-fill your username and full name. To accomplish this simple pleasure, we use the Get Prefilled Link option in Google Forms. When you do this, you can type nonsense into each field that you want pre-filled, but I recommend that you type different nonsense because, as you'll see in a moment, you won't be able to distinguish the variables based on their names. As promised, here is the ugly URL. I've highlighted in red the parts of the URL that change based on what I enter. The real magic is that Tableau can construct the URL dynamically from Tableau server and data variables. Here's the same URL broken in its get style URL parts, and I've replaced the red parts with Tableau variables that I'd like to insert. So you can see here is where I will, when I smash this all together onto one line, I will insert username, and here's where I'll insert full name, and I have a hypothetical retention ampersand progression dashboard. Notice that the variable values are what are called URL encoded. So spaces are replaced with plus signs, and special characters are replaced with a % followed by an ASCII hexadecimal code. You don't have to remember all the codes, luckily, because Tableau can handle the URL encoding for you. Here are dashboard actions for the sample dashboard, and I'll skip this one. I recommend creating a separate feedback sheet so that you can style the text to look like a link and add any additional tooltip you want. I added a privacy notice to let users know that you will be using their username and full name. Notice that the variables I want to use and the URL are pills on detail. That's important. Users will see the name of the action if you use the menu option, so make it descriptive. I generally use menu because otherwise everything you click on just opens new web pages everywhere and it gets a little chaotic. The insert menu is there for you to enter your chosen variables, which you should put on detail again. The data values menu gives you the option to URL encode variables, which is a good idea. There's even an option to pass multiple values if the system you are targeting supports that. So feedback on dashboards is nice, but what if you want users to be able to report instances of bad data so that you can route it to someone who can fix them? We've created another simple dashboard, which you're welcome to paste in the chat if you've got that open, that you can try out. Here on the Tableau dashboard, I've highlighted a few extreme negative values so that I could respond and make comments on those. I encourage you to give it a try with any data you see as unfit and try out how that looks. This one, again, the form prefills. Because this is Qualtrics, you have more options about where to route the email, so perhaps based on the data domain. Note that I have only prefilled the ID so that I'm not passing around too much FERPA-covered information. You'll need to click on the Survey Flow button that can interpret the URL parameters before the survey gets filled out. Qualtrics is so flexible that it's easy for you to be sneaky and hide some of those pre-filled fields so that people don't know how much information they are revealing, but I trust in your professional ethics. Here's the survey flow as completed with ID, user, and name. You may create your own variable names in Qualtrics, which can be different from the IDs of the survey elements. And this runs before the user is shown the variables to enter. After the survey flow has run, Qualtrics makes those variables available as embedded data fields within the survey, but you can also use them explicitly to give default values for your form fields, as shown in this slide. After this, the work in Tableau is nearly identical to the Google Forms case. I used an explicit feedback dot to call attention to this functionality, but users would need to be told that they needed to click anyway. So perhaps an I button or something familiar may be better here. Again, I'm not holding this up as the best example of user interface. The third case study. Users often want to drill down into data, Tableau can do some of this, but at some point, users will want the source systems, especially when they want to modify errant data. In our work, we rarely have access to source systems, let alone design them. However, the types of URLs that these source applications support matter greatly to the user experience we are able to give in our dashboards. We would like to be able to deep link, so link to a specific detail page within those applications, as opposed to a shallow link just to a home page. I highly encourage you to be more involved in asking the hard questions when these systems are purchased so that you can make sure that they serve the interests of informating. You will soon see that my attempt to link from Tableau to an individual record in Slate was not entirely successful. I hope that someone with more knowledge of Slate can build on this approach and share back with us. And if I find out the answer, I'll certainly update this presentation. Slate report URLs end with the following. I've left off the protocol and server name because the server name will depend on your Slate instance. As with previous URLs, we can add key value pairs to pass information to Slate. A UUID, sometimes called a GUID, is what Slate uses internally to refer to certain data elements as well as queries and reports. So to define a parameter called student ID, much like we had to do so in Qualtrics, we have to use a little fragment like param ID equals student ID and put it in the little parameter box. And that tells Slate to be able to interpret the URL coming at it. I suggest for your report starting out with a data explorer or data/charts part, if you're familiar with reports and Slate. The query part didn't work for me. I suspect that the query report may be necessary to get the Slate functionality to link to a student or application detail page, which was my goal, but I was able to definitely limit the reports to just those students I was interested in. To refer to a variable, you use the syntax @ and then the variable name. Used in a filter, it affects the results. So here you can see under the red part here, I've filtered GUID to match my student ID parameter. In reality, you wouldn't actually want to use GUID unless your reporting database also exports that field, of course, and you have it available in Tableau. So it works for Data Explorer and data/charts, but I couldn't make it work for the report query part. I'm definitely open to hearing from someone more familiar with Slate about how to solve this problem, and some of our team is actually also going to ask Slate about how to solve it, so we'll find out more. To close, I want to give you some caveats and tips. First, make sure that if you are using get-style URLs, that you are exporting FERPA-covered data elements to encrypted web services so that those are not sent in the clear. If you do see the URL, or if you're trying to make a URL action and you don't see the link in Tableau, there are several reasons this may occur. First, check that you've included the variable pills on detail. The second, make sure that your URL scheme is valid. Start with a simple URL and grow iteratively because it's hard to find out where in a big URL things are going wrong. Did you turn on URL encoding? Use care as it encodes all parameters and values, as I found when I tried to use a variable for the base URL and it decided to URL encode the whole URL, which was definitely not what I intended. So use that with caution. All right, so I've linked where you can get more resources and the presentations that I put on Tableau Public, and also you can access the presentation and go through at a more leisurely pace. Thank you for humoring my speedy trip through this tip. I welcome follow-up conversations and questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brian. We do have a couple questions. One person asked a little bit more about calculations, like if you've ever used calculations, maybe on the Tableau side, to build out some of those parameter URLs. If you could speak to it, great. If you can't, we're always looking for other folks to give us some tips and tricks, though.
Definitely. Now, when you turn on URL encoding, no matter what the variable is, Tableau will try to URL encode whatever variable is inserted. So as a string, it gets converted to weird things. So you don't want the parts of your URL that you don't want to convert and be URL encoded, like the variable names, the ampersands, and the questions. You would want to make sure that you don't include those as variables. So I recommend just like hard coding the most of the URL and just encoding the parts that actually change in Tableau. I did use calculations for things like the username and full name. I would use calculations for those in Tableau Server.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. I'm looking through and don't see any other specific questions yet. But if you have any, feel free to throw them in. We do have a comment that you can pass filters with URL actions between published dashboards, which I think is something that people want to do as well. Like, you don't want to throw everything into a single dashboard. Sometimes you want to, push someone to something else. So there's a lot of use for URL actions. Brian has just sort of touched the surface. And if other folks have any examples, we'd love to hear them in the future. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Brian. Go Jayhawks. And that's all I have. All right.
Rock chalk, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So up next, we've got Nathan Hodges. And Jenny, if you want to take it away.
Absolutely. So Nathan works in the IR office at Western Carolina University, which is nestled in the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina, not that far from me. His specialties are SQL, Python, and Tableau, and he enjoys pulling together various data sources. And I believe he's going to be using various data sources in his presentation today on isochrone maps. Answering the question, how regional is your regional university? Nathan, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Hi. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yes, let me share my screen here. Oops. There will not be a lot of Tableau, but here's just we will get there eventually. Yeah, so thank you for letting me talk this evening. This is really a continuation of my conversation with the last presentation on using maps. This topic first was brought to my attention through articles that I had read about machine learning and some of the features that were used in machine learning algorithms for various purposes included the drive time or drive distance to students' residence or high schools. And I noticed that our local instance of Banner or your, whatever ERP you use didn't have latitude and longitudes. And that sent me down a rabbit hole of finding data. And so in this presentation, I will show you my source of information for locations of high schools, along with how to calculate drive times and distances without using approximations like the Haversine formula. And as this picture suggests, we are situated in the mountains, and so 25 miles as the crow flies does not really resonate very well with actual drive distance on the roads. And so that's why, and it's a pretty picture. And so what I'm going to go over today are two APIs, one of them being the Urban Institute Education Data Portal. I wish I would have created a poll for this because I wonder how many people use it and how they're using it. The other API we'll go through is the distance matrix API. And then I'm going to bring up the primary issue with this method and the solutions I found online to accommodate this way of getting this location information. And the other ultimate purpose of this presentation is to solicit free labor from you guys to possibly help with this issue that I'll bring up later. So with that being said, I'm not going to talk about the code itself, but I will be bringing up a few key points if I can minimize this. So the first thing I'd like to show you guys is the website for the Urban Institute. This is the Education Data Portal. They consolidate several federal and state reporting into single sources of information that coalesce the features so that it's more useful for longitudinal studies. This information goes down to the elementary, middle school, and high school level. It consolidates by school districts and with iPads using for colleges. It also has other sources of information that you may not have heard of that come from various other sources. And this website is fantastic because you can scroll down to what table you want to download, and then you can pick what language you use to download information. You can also download a CSV file and work off that. And so that is, I mean, without this, it would have taken me probably a whole week longer to work with APIs. And so it's very nice that they give us this. And so this URL here is essentially what I'm using here. And I'm just filling out the year, and I'm just looking at North Carolina for this example. You'll see that there's 2,746 records collected, and that's the number of schools supposedly in North Carolina. And here are all the different types of fields that we can collect. I mean, it's very detailed. It'll tell you whether it's a charter school, a magnet school, estimates for teacher FTE, several other variables. So then I just filtered this down to schools with a latitude and longitude record. And here's what that table looks like, which is already a very nice format for if you have a validation table for example, like high school location. And out of those schools, there are 690 recorded high schools for North Carolina. And so now we'll get to using the Google API. And if I can pull this up, oops. This is the documentation for the distance matrix API. And one of the reasons I'm giving this presentation is because typically when I bring this up to anyone as an alternative to using an approximate method, I feel like I just sound very complicated. And it is a little bit. I mean, that's why there's all this documentation. But if you download this file, you'll have a working example and you'll be able to change things as you need. And so really all I do is I just loop through all these records and I plug in Westerns, latitude and longitude, along with the high school latitude and longitude. And that gives me the driving distance and the duration. And I would advise you to stick with metric But for you imperialists out there, I also went ahead and showed how to get miles. I am an imperial. I do like seeing things in miles, but that's handy. And there we go. In essence, you have a solution. There's the high school, there's its location, and this is how far it is. Which brings me to the issue. And this issue is documented. Let me just go up here. So the issue that I ran into was that in our ERP, we used the SEEB code as the identification for the high school. And the Common Core of Data through the NCS agency uses a NCES ID. And so I scoured the internet and found this crosswalk, which is from a system peer at the UNC Greensboro. And he basically describes how he attempted to create a crosswalk. You could imagine you could use the city, the state, the name of the school, and things like that. But it's not perfect. It's definitely not rubber stamped by a federal agency. And then another effort to solve this problem was brought up by some folks at UC Boulder. And they actually referenced the work that someone had done at UNCG. And they employed a lot of the same methods that the IR shop at UNCG used. But they even invested money in, Amazon Turks, basically, or Mechanical Turk, where they actually sent these records to people across the world to put a name to a place, a SEEB code to a NCES ID. And so you can see that a lot of work has already been done, and they are encouraging people to contribute. This has last been updated in 2020. And I don't consider this issue resolved, but if anyone, this is where I solicit the free labor. If anyone has a better way of doing this, I would gladly appreciate that information. Yes, and so here's how that crosswalk table looks. And it looks like there's 683 schools in North Carolina on the crosswalk. And then I'm just going to merge these. And you can see, if I zoom out a little bit, you can see some null data here. Mostly these are private schools, and I imagine that they can elect or not elect to share information. But also I imagine the names of these schools could change more frequently. And so that's why some of these records aren't there. And that was 156 out of the 683. And just for fun, we'll also look at the Haversine estimation for this, for these distances. And so I'll have the Google distance in miles along with the Haversine distance in miles. And okay. This is a chart showing the distance in miles relative to the Haversine distance. And unless you drill a tunnel through the earth, you won't cross this red line here. That would mean that the distance in miles is shorter than the distance over the surface of the planet, which brings me to, and so now we'll just check out some of these results. And so this is a isochrone map of North Carolina relative to Western. We're over here in Jackson County. And I have it binned off in colors from 0 to 30 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour, and so forth, which gives you a good sense of how long it takes to get to certain high schools or certain regions. Now, getting back to the original problem, which this resolves quite a bit, is the main issue here was that we had qualitative information in county state descriptions that weren't compatible with machine learning algorithms. And so this here is just a very simple bar chart for, let's say, this last academic year, which shows that 27% of applicants to Western are actually, I believe that's 3 hours from Western. Of course, you can look at this information longitudinally and see just if your demographics are changing, if you have more people over time applying further and further away from you or closer. I don't think we need to look at this anymore. I think that line chart kind of explains it. But to put it in a simpler way, down here on the x-axis, I've binned the Haverstein distance in increments of 30 miles. And I've binned the minutes that Google says that you'll get there. And so you can see that in the same bin for the 0 to 30 miles, you have some folks who could take an hour to get to your campus, as opposed to some who could be there within 30 minutes. And so far and so forth. And it can get more extreme the further you go out. And so if you're binning people together, if you're categorizing people off as the crow flies distance, you're lumping people together who have very different realities, especially if you think of the high school as a proxy to the student's primary residence. Now, I've showed you sorry. So I've been showing you the just North Carolina, but if you are a regional institution that borders other states, you might actually now be able to group students up who are out of state and compare them to folks who are similar in state. And so if we just exclude North Carolina here, you can see just how many high schools are in zip codes that are very close. Some of them still within 30 to 60 minutes to your institution. And I think that about sums it up. For the most part, I was just hoping to, if you haven't heard of these resources before, I was hoping to show them to you. And once again, soliciting free labor for whoever has a better solution.
Thank you so much, Nathan. I always love that map. I'm just scrolling up through the chat to make sure there weren't any questions I missed. I tried to put in all the links that you mentioned or shared. Let's see.
And just so that everyone knows, these links are also going to be on the HETUG event page for October, including Nathan's entire presentation. You will need to download the file that is linked in order to be able to see it, because it's an HTML file, but you should be able to get all the links from there as well.
And I didn't see any questions in the chat, so If anyone does think of something, just follow up with Nathan after the fact. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Roshni, are you doing the next step?
That's yes, I am.
I wasn't sure.
So we really hope that you guys all enjoyed today's meeting. And in order to keep making these meetings happen and hopefully make them be good meetings, we want to hear about it. Let us know what you thought, what we can do better, what you might actually want to see in the future, all of that sort of thing. And these links are going to be in the chat in just a second. We are also excited that November 14th, National Pickle Day is coming up, and it's kind of a big deal. And in fact, we're going to meet Nathan again. This time we're going to put him in the brine. We're going to have him share a little bit more about his how he got to all this math goodness that he does. We're going to have some tips and tricks around data management, the data management add-on from Lauren Hartman and David Lishka. And then the center of it all, the thing that is going to be super jarring but amazing, is our parameter pickle party with Matt Beeman from UNC Chapel Hill, Casey Lawrence from Virginia Tech, and Lisa Trescott from Maricosta. And if any of you guys remember Lisa's presentation about tacos, let's talk about sets, I want to say. I can't remember what the actual content was, which is really bad. But talk about Tableau tips. That's what it was. You are going to be in for some amazing puns. I am going to relish every moment of this November 14th meeting. And then we hope to see you there. And if you ever want to present at a future HETUG, please let us know. Also in the chat, Lisa will be keeping it kosher. Nice. Also in the chat, we put in some links to some of the other tugs we talked about today. The Tableau Public Tug is meeting on the 19th, which is Thursday. The University Teaching and Learning Tug is having its first ever meeting on Friday. And then don't forget about the Iron Viz deadline. That is October 31st, I want to say. And now I'm beginning to doubt whether that is actually, it is the deadline. Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
The link is in the chat. So that is it for today's meeting. Thank you everyone for joining. We will open up the breakout rooms in just a second. But again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to Preethi, Brian, and Nathan for hanging out and sharing all of what they shared with us.